Okay, well, we were talking about the crop and the fact that the crop is very boring this year here in the U.S. because weather's good, yields are going to be good, and I believe the overall quality will be good. If it continues to rain, we may see some mold and mildews in soybeans and corn, but the yield will be excellent. I still think overall general quality will be excellent as well. As I mentioned in my part of the discussion, the economics of, or the reality of the economics are that you can only pressure grower premiums, sales premiums, processor margins so much until the supply starts to taper off. And we're finishing our first year of a supply backlog, probably going into a new crop with supply backlog. So our goal is to get our customers, the end users, the tofu manufacturers, the soy sauce makers, et cetera, to look at this as a longer term project rather than just a spot purchase. And when I say spot purchase, that's buying this month for next month's manufacturing needs. What they need to look at is 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, maybe even 5 years out. And once they look at 1, 3, 5, then I think it's prudent for them to look at contracting years 1, 2, and 3 out. Maybe we can float the price, but you can hedge currencies, you can hedge the futures, and this would allow them to hedge essentially the basis of the grain that they use, the raw commodity, whether it's corn or soybeans, either one. I'm specifically affiliated with soybeans. So by looking at buying 1, 3, 5 years out, they can hedge their cost, their raw commodity costs for production out 1, 3, or 5 years. And that will stabilize supply. That will stabilize suppliers. We'll have a better handle on what we need. We'll be able to manage our production side much more efficiently. And there's no panacea. You know, that nothing, as you mentioned about the crop, there's no perfect crop. There's no perfect economic model. But if we would work together, if we talk together, if the end users, those food manufacturers would plan further down the road, I think we could even things out and take the high and the lows out of that market, get it a little more stabilized. And it would be good overall. There's no moment in life more important than this one. And there's no greater reality than the reality you're living today, right now. And today, right now, they're dealing with these enormous backlog of inventories, the supply side here in the U.S. and Canada. On the food grade soybean side, enormous supplies. Some people didn't finish the 2014 soybean crop, exporting it until March of 2016. So that's bad news for everybody. So some manufacturers are getting an older soybean inventory, which you have to manufacture tofu a little differently with a crop that's older than a crop that's fresh. Then the cost, nobody knows what the cost is going to be because right now it's a free fall in the high-end food-grade commodity values. And it is really squeezing the cleaning plants, and it's squeezing the brokers that are out there. And you know, it's good for some of the manufacturers, export manufacturers and domestic manufacturers, because they're getting their soybeans cheaper. But that's bad long term, because what you're going to do when you push those margins down, then the suppliers, the processors, are going to have to push those premiums down on the grower. The farmer is going to say, okay, I'll do it to this point. You push me below this point. And then because I have $300 an acre cash rent, my combine costs $750,000, and the tractor I just bought was $300,000. I can't afford to raise non-GMO food-grade soybeans for the amount you're offering me. I'd rather take my risks in the crush market. And so it's hard on us economically today, and it's going to be hard on the food manufacturers tomorrow if that volume tapers off, if we drop below that price level where the grower says, no more, I'm going to GMO. I deal with lots of smart people around the world. These people are smart people. They've built great food grade businesses. They're getting stronger every year. There's attrition on our side, on the supply side. There's attrition on the manufacturer side. It's natural. Those manufacturers are getting bigger, just like the farms in the U.S. are getting bigger. And so it's getting more stabilized. And the more you stabilize the manufacturing side, the supply and demand side, once again, the more you can even these price spikes out. But then going forward, worldwide, there's a greater awareness of food, where your food comes from, and what's in your food. And everybody wants to talk about sustainability, and even an auto manufacturer is calling a vehicle more sustainably produced. Don't know how that works, but I know on agriculture side, on the ag side, that sustainability is coming into the market, and that makes the farmers more aware of their production. So, there's more no-till. The herbicides are put on very accurately today. The fertilizer is put on very accurately today. These guys tissue sample, the farmers, they tissue sample. They sample sometimes every acre, depending on the grower, for fertility, for chemical residues. And so with that coming from my region, from the U.S. farmer, I'm going out to those that are most interested in where we're going with our food supply. And I can show these people this, and it's really starting to flip triggers. You hate to talk about the millennials, but I'm going to give the millennials credit because I think it's that generation that has done more asking about where our food's coming from than any group in the past. I'm nearly 60, and I've been around the world. I've eaten all kinds of things, both processed and cooked, and then live. But I grew up in an era where Oreo cookies were fantastic. I still love Oreo cookies, but most millennials are saying, well, what's in that Oreo cookie? I want to know that first. And so for that reason, I think the non-GMO food grade trend is going to continue to go up. I think we're trending up. I think domestically that the trend is up in a steep manner. And part of that's labeling, but the other part is this generation that's coming on. Once again, they want to know what's in their food. And the non-GMO high-end food grade supplier and grower can tell them what's in their food. A company like mine, if a customer says, okay, you sent me a shipping container in March and this was the lot number, we can trace it back to the boat it was on, the truck that took it to the rail ramp. We can find the train it was on to get to the port. We can trace it back to when it came in our plant, the shift that ran it, the farmer that grew it, the bin he put it in, and the field it was grown in. So I'm really optimistic. I think this is a fantastic direction to go. I think the trend is really good, really good. For IOM Grain, our side of it that we see is we deal with dray companies, we deal with steamship lines, we deal with railroads, and then we deal with the actual steamship line that takes the container overseas, and then we deal with the dray people on the backside. So when you put it all together, when you stand back and look at it, we prepare a set of documents that follows a bag of soybeans 8,500 miles. It leaves our place and it makes it to a destination in China, Taiwan, Vietnam, Japan, South Korea, Singapore. It makes it there. So by and large, it is efficient, but there are some hiccups along the way. But it's getting better every day.